A monk was meditating alone in his boat, floating peacefully in the middle of a lake. After hours of serene stillness, another boat suddenly bumped into his, jolting him from his deep peace. He felt that familiar surge of hot anger rise in his chest. His eyes snapped open, his mouth ready to form a yell at the careless boatman who had so rudely shattered his tranquility. But when he looked, the boat was empty. It had likely drifted loose from the shore, carried by the current until it collided with his own. In that instant, the monk had a profound realization. The anger didn't come from the boat. It couldn't have. The anger came from within him. That empty boat, in its silent, accidental disturbance, became his greatest teacher. What if I told you that most of the time you're getting angry at an empty boat? We all feel anger. It's a powerful, primal human emotion. It floods our senses, quickens our breath, and tells us to react, to defend, to push back. But how we respond to that feeling can change everything. For centuries, monks and sages have known that the most powerful response to provocation isn't a clever comeback or a display of force. It's silence. But this isn't a passive, quiet-in-the-corner kind of silence. It's a strategic, conscious, and transformative tool. Today, we're going to explore how the ancient wisdom of monks can reshape our understanding of anger. We'll uncover how they used the profound practice of silence not just to stay calm, but to completely defeat anger at its root. And more importantly, how you can start using this incredible power in your own life today. Before we can use silence, we have to understand the beast we're trying to tame. What is anger, really? From a Buddhist perspective, anger is often described as a fire. It starts as a small spark, an insult, a frustration, a disappointment. If we feed it with our thoughts, justifications, and reactions, that spark can erupt into a wildfire that consumes our peace and burns everyone around us. Think about the last time you were truly angry. That feeling of losing control, your heart pounding, your mind racing with furious thoughts. You say things you later regret. You damage relationships you cherish. You create a storm of negativity that can linger for hours or even days. The person who provoked you may have moved on, completely oblivious, while you're left holding a burning coal, wondering why your hand is so severely burned. This is a core teaching. Anger hurts the person who holds it far more than the person it's directed at. The momentary satisfaction of lashing out is a fleeting illusion. The real cost is our own inner harmony. We allow someone else's actions, their words, their carelessness, their empty boat, to dictate our inner state. We give them the keys to our own peace. We live in a world that often mistakes loudness for strength. We're taught to stand up for ourselves and to not let anyone get away with it. And while setting boundaries is vital, reacting from a place of raw anger isn't strength. It's a sign that we've lost control. It's a confession that our inner world is so fragile that a single word can shatter it. We all know the pain. The regret after an argument with a loved one. The simmering resentment toward a coworker. The road rage that ruins your morning. These are the moments when the fire of anger takes hold, and we feel helpless against its heat. But Buddhist philosophy offers a radical alternative. It teaches that you are not your anger. You are the awareness that sees the anger. Just as the sky isn't the storm cloud passing through it, your true nature isn't the emotion that temporarily darkens your mind. The anger is an event. It arises, and if you let it, it will also pass. This is the why behind the monks' practice. They use silence not to suppress anger, but to create the space to see it for what it is, an impermanent, internal event. By not reacting, by not feeding the flames, they allow the fire to run out of fuel. They understand that real strength isn't in shouting. Real strength is in the unshakable calm of silence. It's the strength to protect your own well-being and to refuse the gift of someone else's negativity. So what do we do when that wave of anger is rising? This is where the practical wisdom of the monks becomes a lifeline. The first and most foundational technique is what we can call the sacred pause. This isn't about ignoring the provocation. It's about intentionally creating a buffer of time between the trigger and your response. In this silent space, freedom is born. When someone insults you or cuts you off in traffic, the modern mind is trained for instant reaction. The path from thought to speech is immediate, but the monk trains to sever that automatic connection. Instead of reacting, they pause, they take a deep breath, they stay silent. This pause might only last for 3 to 5 seconds, but its power is immeasurable. In those few seconds, you interrupt the emotional hijack of your brain. You stop the momentum of blind reaction and give your wiser mind a chance to catch up. This is a direct application of mindfulness, or sati in Pali. It is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. When anger arises, the untrained mind becomes the anger. The mindful mind, however, observes the anger. It says, a feeling of anger is arising within me. There is a tightness in my chest. There is heat in my face. Notice the language. A feeling of anger is arising, not I am angry. This subtle shift is revolutionary. It creates separation between you, the observer, and the emotion, the observed. You're no longer lost in the storm. You're the calm presence watching the storm from a safe place. Vipassana meditation, a core Buddhist practice, is built on this principle. Practitioners spend hours in silence, observing sensations and thoughts without reacting. They notice an itch and simply observe the sensation of itching. They learn, through direct experience, that all sensations, thoughts, and emotions are impermanent. They arise, exist for a time, and then pass away. Anger is no different. When you apply this in the real world, your silence becomes your meditation cushion. The insult becomes your object of observation. In that sacred pause, you watch the anger emerge. You feel the physical sensations. You notice the aggressive stories your mind starts to tell. And you just watch. You don't act. You don't speak. You simply hold your ground in the quiet stillness of your own awareness. Let's make this practical. Imagine a colleague criticizes your work unfairly in a meeting. The immediate impulse is to defend, argue, or counterattack. Instead, you try the sacred pause. You remain silent. You take one slow, silent breath. In your mind, you acknowledge, I'm feeling a surge of anger and humiliation. My heart is beating faster. You don't say a word. What happens? You give the initial wave of emotion a chance to crest and recede. By the time you do speak, your words won't come from that reactive fire. They'll come from a place of clarity. You might say, I hear your perspective, and I'd like to discuss it more after the meeting, instead of, you have no idea what you're talking about. The sacred pause isn't weakness, it's profound self-control. It's the conscious decision to not let external events dictate your internal state. This silence is an act of self-respect. It says, my inner peace is more valuable than winning this argument. Once the sacred pause has created some space, the silence transforms from a defensive shield into an investigative tool. This is the second stage, the inner inquiry. Monks don't just wait for anger to disappear. They use the quiet to understand where it's really coming from. The empty boat story is the perfect metaphor. The monk's anger was initially aimed at a careless boatman, but seeing the boat was empty forced him to look inward. He realized the source of the anger was his own internal reaction. The boat was just a trigger. During the silence of the inner inquiry, you ask yourself, what is really making me angry? At first, the answer seems obvious. That person insulted me. But if you sit with the question, you start to peel back the layers. Let's go back to being insulted. You've used the sacred pause. Now, in the quiet of your mind, you ask, why did those words hurt? What did they threaten? The answer almost always relates to the ego. The insult might have threatened your image of being intelligent, competent, or respected. The anger isn't just about the words. It's a defense mechanism for a wounded ego. A monk understands this. They recognize that most anger is the suffering that arises when reality doesn't match our expectations. We wanted respect, and we got disrespect. The anger is the friction between what I want and what is. The inner inquiry is a silent conversation with yourself. You can ask, what expectation of mine was violated? What am I afraid of losing here? Respect? Control? Status? Is this about this moment, or is it connected to a past hurt? Looking at this person, can I see their own suffering? That last question is especially powerful. Buddhist teachings emphasize that people who lash out are often in immense pain themselves. Hurt people, as the saying goes. An insult is often a projection of their own insecurity or misery. When you use your silence to reflect on this, the anger can begin to transform. You start to see the enemy, not as a villain, but as another struggling person, drifting aimlessly and bumping into others out of their own confusion. This process moves you from personal victimhood, they did this to me, to impersonal observation. An event happened, and a feeling of anger arose. This depersonalization robs the anger of its power. It can no longer define you. Think about the Zen master who was repeatedly insulted by a man. He listened silently. When the man finished, the master asked, "If you offer a gift to someone, and they do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man replied, "To me, the one who offered it." The master nodded. "Exactly. You have offered me your anger, but I choose not to accept it. It remains with you." This isn't just a clever retort. It's the result of inner inquiry. The master understood the anger belonged to the other man. Reacting with anger is exhausting. It drains your mental and emotional energy. Wise silence preserves that vital energy. After pausing to observe the anger and using inquiry to understand it, the final stage is to transform that raw energy into something positive. The goal isn't just to defeat anger, but to alchemize it into compassion. This is the compassionate response, and it's often expressed through a new kind of silence. This isn't a cold, empty silence. It's a warm, understanding silence that holds space for your feelings and the other person's suffering. Having seen that the provocation likely came from their pain, your silence is no longer about self-protection. It becomes an act of compassion. This is where the practice of metta, or loving-kindness meditation, comes into play. Monks spend countless hours cultivating feelings of goodwill, first for themselves, then for loved ones, and finally, most challengingly, for their enemies. They silently repeat phrases like, "May you be happy," "May you be healthy," "May you be safe." When provoked, a monk can silently extend these feelings toward the person insulting them. They see the enemy as someone who is deeply unhappy, because peaceful people don't go around causing harm. Instead of meeting anger with more anger, they silently meet it with a wish for the other person to be free from the very suffering that's causing them to act out. This is the ultimate reversal of our primal instinct. Your silence becomes a compassionate embrace rather than a wall. It non-verbally communicates, "I will not participate in this cycle of negativity. I see your pain, and I will not allow it to become my own." This has a disarming effect. A person provoking you expects a fight. When they are met with calm, unshakable silence, it throws them off balance. They have no fuel for their fire. Your non-reaction often forces them to confront their own behavior. The silence acts as a mirror. Let's return to the coworker. You use the sacred pause. You use the inner inquiry and realize your anger came from feeling undervalued. Now, you engage the compassionate response. In your silence, instead of plotting revenge, you reflect on them. Perhaps they are under immense pressure. Perhaps they're deeply insecure. You don't have to know for sure. You just open your mind to the possibility that their action came from suffering. You can silently offer a thought of metta. May you be free from your insecurity. May you find peace. When you finally speak, your tone will be completely different, devoid of the poison of anger. You might still need to address the issue, but you'll do so constructively. Your silence has allowed you to choose a response rooted in wisdom, not a reaction rooted in pain. Over time, This practice fundamentally weakens the neural pathways of anger and strengthens the pathways of empathy, patience, and equanimity. A deep, unshakable balance of mind. We started with the story of the empty boat, a powerful lesson that the source of our anger lies not outside us, but within. We've seen how anger is a destructive fire, burning the person who holds it most of all. But we're not powerless. We've learned the 3 ways monks use silence to master this fire. First, the sacred pause, the revolutionary act of creating a silent space between a trigger and our reaction. Second, the inner inquiry, using that silence to look within and ask, what is really making me angry? And third, the compassionate response, transforming anger into compassion and breaking the cycle of negativity. Real strength isn't in shouting, it's in silence. It's the quiet power to observe your mind without being controlled by it. It's the wisdom to refuse a gift of anger and the compassion to meet aggression with an unshakable peace. You are not your anger. You are the awareness that sees it. Your journey can start now. The next time you feel that heat of anger rising, I invite you to try the first technique. Just for a few seconds. Try the sacred pause. Don't react. Take one deep breath and just notice what happens in that small pocket of silence. Now, I have a question for you. Your experience is a vital part of this conversation. In the comments below, share one situation this week where you'll commit to trying the sacred pause. It could be in traffic, in a meeting, or at home. Let's support each other in taking this first step. If this message resonated with you, please support our channel by liking and subscribing. Remember, the journey to inner peace isn't a destination, but a practice, and it can begin with a single silent breath.